Hello, welcome to Lovin Sheila. Today we're going to talk about being assertive in relationships. Now, oftentimes when we think of being assertive, we're thinking about being combative, argumentative, and things like that. But we're absolutely not. In being assertive in our relationships, we're helping to create the relationship that we want. We're helping ourselves to be decisive, to set boundaries, to determine what we want in the relationship and what we don't want, what it looks like. And this is something that you are a co-creator with the person that you're in the relationship with. But at the same time, we have to show up and we have to do our part and we have to assert ourselves and make sure that we are heard and that we are recognized in our relationship. So that's what we're going to learn today. How can we better show up in our relationships? How can we be assertive? Assertive being the opposite of being passive. If you've been a passenger and not a teammate, this message is for you because we're going to learn how to assert ourselves in relationships and have the relationship that we want. Before we tap into this topic, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. It's just a quick little click, and I always say it's real talk for the whole woman. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of issues that concern us. And it could be our fitness, it could be our medical needs, it could be our relationships, it could be our mental health. Whatever it is, we're dedicated here to providing content for the whole woman. Being assertive in relationships. I'll be quite honest with you, and this has been a challenge for me throughout most of my relationships. So much so that I had to make a declaration that in 2025, I dedicated it as the year of being assertive because I found that I was passive and I was a passenger in so many of my relationships. Career-wise and things like that, I was fine. But when it came to relationships and really getting what I want and defining the relationship and creating the relationship I wanted, I kind of just went along for the ride. And if you want to have a successful relationship, that's not the way to do it. Today, we're going to talk about ways that we can show up in our relationship by being more assertive. Now, I know we're often hearing the term, be my peace and all. And being assertive in a relationship does not mean that you are not a peaceful person. It does not mean that you're a combative person. It means that you are a participant in the relationship. And you have ideas and you have thoughts that you want to share to make sure that you are fully represented in that relationship. So I want to talk about that a little bit. There are some tools that I think would be useful, tools that I have implemented. And the only reason I've implemented these things or thought about these things is because I had a lot of trial, a lot of error, and a lot of navigating to do. I had so much room for growth that it required me to take some steps to think about this. And part of the issue was the lack of these things. So I want to make sure that these are things that we are bringing to the table in our relationships as we proceed. Well, first of all, I talked about this some time ago, and this is just a starting point. Oftentimes there are suitors who would like to date us and have relationships with us. And remember, you are an active participant in that. Just because someone likes you does not mean that you acquiesce and you see what that's all about. I would recommend that there will be an equal interest, not just because, oh, this person is pursuing me, but you're actually interested in that person. And so first you're dealing with someone that you want to deal with. I mean, this is very simple, but sometimes we omit it. And so I want to make sure that I say that. Another thing is being assertive in the relationship is going to require a bit of decisiveness, knowing what you want. And so I would say before we enter into a relationship that we should know what we want, because when you don't, and I've been guilty of this, when you don't, you kind of make the rules up as you go. You keep adding new ingredients into the mix. So it's good to kind of have a good idea of standards of what you want, standards of what is necessary to bring to the table. Because without this, we're not even meeting at the table. So there has to be some decisiveness, some understanding to know what you want. And along with that, we have to proceed with boundaries. I'll speak for myself. In the past, because if I liked you, it was just like open season. But it can't be open season. We have to have boundaries and we have to set them along the way because, like I've mentioned before, the boundaries are there to protect us, to keep us healthy, to keep us whole, to prevent individuals from disrespecting us or making us feel uncomfortable. So we have to have our boundaries. So proceed in your relationship setting boundaries, having a good understanding. That lets people know that they can't just steamroll you, they can't just do whatever they want to do. You have standards, you have boundaries, and there's only so far a person can invade that space. So that's a way to assert yourself. You're letting them know from the front what's acceptable to you and what is not acceptable to you. And if those are defined early on and very clear, you'll have less encroachment upon that. And then we want to be direct. So many times I was afraid to say exactly what I was thinking or what I meant. And those things were very important. And my lack of ability to state them put me in some compromising positions and some things that I could not course correct down the line. So they were pervasive in my relationship. So do not avoid being direct, being straightforward. Because as much as I avoided being direct with people, I always loved when people were direct with me, when they let me know where they were coming from. And I knew from the beginning what they were about, where they were coming from, what they wanted. Conversely, I wasn't able to do the same. But now I realize, just like I value receiving that, I'm sure a person who is really interested and respectful of you would receive you being direct with them. So it works both ways. And it's just a few things. Those are just the things that I have discovered. And without those, it is my opinion that we are allowing others to dictate the relationship, to dictate how it goes. So we have to assert ourselves. There are some things we just need to lay, for lack of a better word, the ground rules to let people know where we stand, who we are, how we operate. We need to do that. That way, as we proceed, that's already established and we can continue to grow, but we've established the boundaries, the ground rules, the standards, how we are going to operate. It's very similar to what I talked about in the past on the episode, Rules of Engagement. There's some things that we're just going to bring to the table from the gate, from the very beginning. And that allows us to assert ourselves because we can reinforce our boundaries. We can put people in remembrance of certain things that we've said before if we establish those things early on. And it's just a matter of asserting ourselves, of asserting our boundaries. So just being assertive in our relationship is just really protecting ourselves, protecting where the relationship goes, protecting our goals for the relationship and what we want it to look like or what we think it should include. We don't want to be passengers in our relationship. We don't want to just go along. We don't want to take the path of least resistance. We want to build together. We want to establish foundation together, to establish boundaries. If we don't assert ourselves early on and let the person know where we're coming from, what we're about, what we like, what we don't like, what we're working on, all these things, if we don't establish those early on, it becomes more challenging down the line. And so I'm saying communicate early, assert yourself, be direct early. And this way you can eliminate some of the being a passenger, going along for the ride, not really showing up. Taking the path of least resistance is easy, but it doesn't get us where we're trying to go. We're trying to build relationships. We're trying to have good, open communication. We're trying to build trust. We want to believe that they have our best interest at heart. And if we don't share with them who we are, what we want, how we feel about different things, they're not going to know. And they're going to do what they do. And it may not represent what you want as well. And so you're not giving that person an opportunity to show up for you. So though we think sometimes that we're getting along and we're doing this for the good of the relationship, oftentimes we're not, because those are the things that can come back and haunt us. So it's better to assert yourself and to establish some things early on. I was at a point in one of my relationships where I felt like I just had to destroy it. I just had to tear it down because the foundation of everything that we built was so corrupted and so not me and not representative of who I am, what I want, or anything, that it was just like I didn't know how to fix it. It was so far gone, I just did not know how to fix it. And so that's why I encourage people to communicate your wants, your needs, assert yourself, have boundaries, all these things from the very beginning. It's easier to start that way than it is to try to repair it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it can be different. Let's assert ourselves early on with the things that are important to us. Be direct. Have boundaries. I'm talking about this because I've spent most of my life being passive in relationships, lacking the ability to be direct, breaking up with no communication. Like, okay, well, I didn't reach out, I didn't call, so certainly they get the message. Things like that, just passive about it rather than communicating that this is not something I want to do anymore. And the issue with that was most of the people that I've dated in the past were not passive. They were very assertive and sometimes even aggressive. And if I was passive like that, they weren't going to accept me just passively closing the door. They were going to keep coming back and coming back. And I would neglect shutting the door and being direct. And so this breakup would last far longer than it should have. And so that's what I'm telling you. Don't do that. Don't be me. Even though you feel like you're saving them some trouble and you're preventing some hurt, you're also sending missed messages by that. So the passive breakups do not work. You'll find yourself receiving phone calls way after the supposed breakup, receiving invitations way after the supposed breakup. So it's better to be direct and assert yourself and communicate why something is not working for you rather than allow it to fizzle and think that everyone's done here, because oftentimes everyone isn't done. And that creates a push-pull, a win-lose situation where this person wants that, you're not really communicating what you want, so maybe you acquiesce and they get what they want, but you're not getting what you want. It's just a mess. So I did that, and the more I went on this Lovin Sheila journey, I must say I got a little better. The last time I had to have a breakup that I feel was pretty mutual, but at the same time, it was a discussion, and that's how we determined that this is the best thing to do. And there was no unclear message there. It was like, this has ran its course. This is over. And I remember telling him, I'm going to leave now, and I don't want you to follow me. I mean, I don't want you to walk me out or anything. Just let me go. And from there, we didn't communicate. Like, we didn't call each other. There were no invitations for dates or anything like that, because it was very clear, very direct where we stood. And so I take that situation and I look back at other situations and I realize how it was ambiguous and I wasn't assertive and I didn't state what I wanted, and it just lingered. And then I look at that situation where I was very clear that this is not going to work any longer. I'm moving on. You're moving on. We're going to cut this off. And that's what happened. And so I learned that my previous methods didn't work. So that's why I encourage you in those situations as well to be assertive. Not only during the relationship, while you're establishing the relationship, and even at the conclusion of relationship, it's important to assert yourself. You know, you maintain the boundaries you had, that you communicated from the beginning. The standards remain the same. They don't change. They're not, like I've said before, we don't create IEPs and the standards are this for one person and that for another person. The standards are the standards. So you maintain that. You maintain your boundaries. You maintain your standards. You maintain your ability to communicate directly. I'm not talking about being rude, harsh, or combative. I'm talking about actual communication. I had a conversation with someone just the other day, and I didn't like the way they were communicating with me. And I said, I don't like the way you're communicating with me. I feel like it's a little harsh, and it hurts my feelings. I'm sensitive to the words that came out of your mouth, and it hurt my feelings because I care about you. So please talk to me differently. It wasn't combative. It was just, people are not always aware unless you communicate. And we can always give them the benefit of communication. And while I'm saying this, I struggle even in current relationships. The moment there are conflicts, my first instinct is to stop the conversation, to get off the phone. That's just, I can feel it building up inside of me. Like, I'm done. But because I've been working on communication, that was 2024, and in 2025, asserting myself, in 2023 with boundaries, I'm learning, I should say, to stay there, even when it's uncomfortable, even when I don't have anything more to say, not to run from it, to be open to communication, to assert my position, whatever it might be, and be open to hear someone else's position, because it's possible it could change my mind. But at the same time, I'm asserting myself by saying, this is how I feel. This is what I think, and staying there. In the past, it's like, this is it, and I'm out. Now I'm open to hearing more and trying to understand how another person feels. And it's a work in progress. And I always say on this show that you do the work and you feel like you're doing great, but you never know how well the work is working until you have to apply it, until you're dealing with others and you have to work through things and you have to work through conflict, or you have to communicate your wants, or declare what your position is in a certain situation, or what you believe, that's when things get a little more tricky. I'm imploring you not to let go, to focus, and to stay assertive, to stay the course, communicate, be direct, have boundaries, have standards, create the relationships you want by being present, by showing up. Because if you don't, we're creating a one-sided relationship, and you need to be represented and you need to be seen in your relationships. So assert yourself. Understand asserting yourself is not being combative. It's not having an argument. It's merely communicating what you need and being bold enough to say it and stand in it. Whether we might be right, we might be wrong. It may be open to some conversation, but putting yourself in a position where you are bold enough to have the conversation, meek enough to accept that you may not always be right. One of the things that came to me after I talked to Dr. Balkum, and I shared some of my previous ways, and he summed it up by saying you weren't showing up. Doing a little reflection and kind of going back to where I have been, being assertive, making sure that I am communicating, making sure I'm standing up for my wants, needs, making sure that I am concise in delivering my messages, what I want to be heard. Making sure I'm defining me. People who are in my life know who I am and what I want. And that's what I want for you, my listeners, whomever you are, whatever it is. Make sure that you're showing up. Make sure that you're assertive enough to assert yourself, to make sure that who you are is on the table. I mean, that again, it always goes back to this, but again, that's part of our identity. Make sure it shows up. Be assertive. Trust your intuition that you have the right people in your life that will hear you, that will receive you, and assert yourself to create the life you want, to create the relationships you want. That pretty much covers it. It's really simple, but I hope hearing these simple words help you see areas where you can just apply it. It's not rocket science. We make some things more difficult than they need to be. I'll go back again real quick. That breakup that I told you about, where we mutually agreed. There was a situation that developed, and I sat there for a few minutes and I was thinking, am I going to talk about it? Because it's bothering. And I wrestled with it for a little while, and then I said, okay. I made a comment to start the conversation. So be direct. You can sit there and we can hold things in, and we can not share what's on our minds, not share what's going on with us, not share if things have hurt us or not, and they'll never know. So we have to assert ourselves and make sure that we're communicating and being direct so that misunderstandings can be resolved, or maybe you may come to a point where it's something that cannot be resolved. But whatever the case may be, you've asserted yourself, and you know. Let's go into 2026, asserting ourselves, understanding who we are, and walking in it daily. And that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you for watching, and also don't forget, subscribe, share, and comment. I want to hear from you. Thank you for watching Lovin Sheila, the podcast.